听得到。嗯哦，可以，可以，可以，好，好，好，OK。
Holding the Jeshon, Ringun Joda Lama Karma Pa, Kingo Kungi Jun, Sisi Pegridan, Nandruma, Chile Kungi Jehu, Wangir Chigyon, Brazil, Chambrella, Nandur Teji, Gugi Judo, Jame, Tuchi Kyora, Cho Chuna Sugar, Sangeda, Chaju, Simba, Tam Cheta, Lama Yan, Dawa Yungi, Givi, Shini Chimbo, Dala, Konsu Sol. Dala jingi la dala chinji la jima tamde nyawar shivar. Jingi la dala chinji malo be toba tamde kebra tedu da teba chimbe chedruba la parse tamde nyawar shivar. Jingi la Nagir Nangi Tadan be Simjin Tamja Krova Dungi Gatsule Tage Nangi Lana Mebe Kohom Tambala Gabarcha Chidu Tambechula Tesum Kumsungi Kone Chubur Kiu Nyambi Kunung Chanchu Chodo Tugeba Saltabne Dambechu Simbershu. Dela gang sembre jawe chigi rimba jangan ruri thayagi sung lama kyangbe ki sundip mugi ingi sardip la sundip rimba sum yawale rimba nipa lamgi yendin kila kyawala chingi labar soa debe sulshir kap. Ola, ta inganza de kisi di nungcha ene diwa mungu diwa mungu do dine dine diwa shiba ngaba dhuba sumdi ngado de 된다 커피 바바다 치세단 된다 직벌에도 디인자들이 디 렌디들이 대세당 렌 냠도 지네 껴서나 그래서 디세 아니 셉자를 더 펜서래 당부 드와들로기 드와 시바디 우미 타와당 냠네 우미 타와 냠네 나와라 때네 동니 또 그거 말베 라마라 소와 데바tam기 동니 또 두그르베사 저직들이래도 당부디 주능이 저
Kempola, sorry, just a minute. We are having some technical issues. The Spanish interpreter cannot hear you. So just 1 minute. Will you say something, Drupon Kempola? Just Yeshe.
아니 저 시바디 우메 타와당 냠네 나와라 때네 동니 또 그거 말베 라마라 소와 데바tam기 동니 또 두그르베라
So disco. Maite, you may need to check which language you are listening in.
maybe
Hang on just a second. Say that again, Maite. Yeah, I can't hear you in the Spanish channel. Sorry, everyone. What is it? I cannot hear you in the Spanish channel, Maite.
Check that she's set up to be the proper interpretation channels.
She is. Yeah. It sounds like something is playing in the background, Maite. Okay. Okay. No problem. Drupon Kabbalah Yanke Sungda.
저 시바 우메 타와당 냠네 나와라 때네 동니 또 그거 말베 라마라 소와 데바tam기 동니 또 두그르베 거기에 알레
Let me, just for everyone, I'm going to stop the interpretation and restart it and see if that fixes it, which means that all the participants may have to again select your language channel. In just a second.
Il y a un problème technique et donc il y aura interruption. Là, je...
말해. 그래 더 말해. 인지 클릭도.
Maite, can you hear Drupon Khenpo now? Okay. It looks like everything.
그거도.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we are all set. Sorry for that technical difficulty. The one thing is that attendees may now have to re-select the language from the interpretation button that you want to listen to. So please make sure you've done that, and now we can continue.
연결로가 아니 저 시바디 우미 타와 냠네 나와라 때네 동니 또 그거 말베 라마라 소와 데바tam기 동니 또 두그르베 되어시지바디더라도 Tene Duangabadi, the Tavaredo, Lende Lua Missibes, Suldip Keys, Nebe Lenum, Gurtugrives, Soaltebaltene, Le Gurtugrives, Lende Milua Maravesa.
Lasso. The next question is similar, and it's asking if karma is infallible, how is it possible to change the precision of karma by supplication? The Buddha said only good deeds can free one from suffering and gain happiness. Can this be done by just praying to the Guru?
Oh, that do it to body. Sangi ki Dibapang Keve Lela Tena, Tewadang Dingire, Sundu, Lama Lasawa Deba Tangi, Dungal Del Tugirives. Lama Lasawa Tabatangi, Dungal Pantagurives. Sangi ki Dibapang Javadugure Sundus. So tap Sumidu.
So. So I think the order of the questions is a little different, but here it is. The next one is, why is it possible to attain enlightenment quickly solely by giving rise to devotion?
All these soon did they said the Nyamdu Digi Landy any Gabi.
So
Any Saldep Rimbanibagi any Tangu de Kazan Shesare, any Nibadi the Rishigre. Nibadi Garelana, Dambu Figlona, and Tobgang, we say Tonsekin, they made said the Jawe Tado Ing, Jenchin Turbo Dubla Leleker, Nurbi Lingne, Ladon Logbe, Lama Keno, Tuji knew to say.
So these three questions are very similar, and I will answer them alongside the explanation of what we are covering because the answer it will be present there. Now to turn to the second part of the supplication prayer. This is the part that I began yesterday and covered the first verse. Now we will turn to the second verse. And the second verse is now in chat in English. And it reads, I squander this human existence I've obtained with its freedoms and assets, forever diverted by the meaningless doings of this life. Laziness keeps me from accomplishing the supreme aim of liberation. I will return empty-handed from this land filled with jewels. Master, know me, look on me with your great compassion. Bless me that I make this life meaningful.
Any that this Sunday the Garelana, Tanjurniga, Kulakave, Sildebe, Tanjurniverkave, doing the Kulakavala Chilam Narunas, Sundebdira.
So what is this verse saying? This verse pertains to attaining the priceless human existence with a full set of freedoms and assets. That is the topic that this verse covers.
Oh, Dini, Daljur Nige Toba Gulakawa. Daljur Nige Toba Gulakena, Dini. Daljur Nige Toba di. Gula Kena, the condition grace, Lam or Kawakotungbe. Somebody 달저 내가 길게 세리 그러래라나 데메 자와 미지징 데메베 자와 따니 제기 말해서 닌텐 최기 내려던 소 닌당 천 니가라 담배 최코나지 그래서 데메 자와 미지징 닌텐 최기 내려던 딕비 두고 빵선 딕비 두고 빵 그래서 딕비 두고 딴 두고 말했어
Hare.
비숨 중나 단전이가 길게 세래서 단전이가 길게는 되는 연구래서 디기 진실이 그러셔라나 되는 건 군산람의 신용나라 계시 정화와 샤나요래 디디로의 수요래서 계시 정화와 낭신에서 계시 정화와 근데 요래서나 공천을 지금 그거 말해 인당 천니가를 계절지 그래 어디에 콩기 라마 덤덤바라
Hare.
덤덤바 개회 중에 콩기더니 계시던 발라 그래서 뭐 계시던 바 뭐다 쟁아와라 그래서 올라나 오 디로더니 인진 크루랑 날서다네 매바지네더니 계절 dum나 드니 그냥 계절라 이 심발로도 그래 디데 대승에서 제고 그래스 콩기 라마게 이송하래 날서다네 마지네더니 계절 dum나 강점질에 계절들 엄마가 차도 그랬어 패답 차 그랬어 어디에 가서 떼서내서 제거 그랬으니 이 콩기 덤덤하게 송을 해 덤덤하게 랜들라드는 콩기 그래서 그러는 디레 떼서 날서 맞이나드니 근데 인가 요래 있는 양 단저 니가와들 삼르다나 날서에 롱미도 콩기 어디에 단저 니가와 길게 세디레 콩다고 거래서 그러다 어디에 사더니 콩도 세다 저 고통 배세고 송도 데메 자와 미지 인진 추기 렐레선 디비토고 빵 디숨디 중나 되는 나지니가 길게 와레스
The priceless human existence with its freedoms and assets is exceedingly rare and difficult to find. That is the essence of this verse. And how is it that we can determine for ourselves whether we have activated an understanding of the rarity and difficulty of encountering this priceless human existence? This is as stated by the Bodhisattva Gutsampa, who says that the measure of having penetrated to the meaning of the difficulty and of encountering and rarity of the priceless human existence is not spending time in meaningless activities, first. Second, devoting ourselves day and night only to Dharma. And third, giving up misguided companions. These three comprise the measure or gauge of whether we've actually penetrated to the understanding of how rare the priceless human existence is and how difficult to encounter. In the words of my perfect teacher, there's also a story that explains how this works with respect to Kadampa Geshe Chengewa and his teacher, the Lama Drumtumpa. How is it that this was the case, that it demonstrates this? Geshe Chengewa was one that was concerned with being able to practice virtue day and night without sleep. But he directed himself to his Lama Drumtumpa and said, well, if we're able to do this, then yes, we'll be able to reverse our fixation, our reification of this life. But at the same time, if we do it continuously in this way, we'll develop some resistance, some displeasure with respect to Dharma. It's necessary to take a bit of a rest. Otherwise, we'll get fed up. So Lama Drumtumpa says, yes, there's a risk of becoming weary, like you say. There is that possibility. But if when that happens, you really consider the freedoms and resources of a priceless human body, how rare it is and how difficult to find, that will wake you right up. that will help you to address this situation. So this is a story that explains this measure of developing the understanding of the rarity of the priceless human body by avoiding meaningless activities, engaging in Dharma day and night, and giving up misguided friends.
All of all the today because that Daljo Nege Toba Gula Kiva didn't say did of Google. Or today any Danjo Nega Toba Gula Kiva di Tene della Sunday de Garelana that Daljo Nega Gi Toba Gula Ke Quiva de She Kela de Baye any Ke Kale Kabuimba Gula Kiva Ladini or Kale Kabuimba. The Namyong Ni Tona Kiwala Debaye Kia Kabu in Vietnam, Namyong Ni Tona the Sunday Gura. That the Nangaran so any Tajun Yaga Kawa Gosong Besung Nashi, Tang any Tajun Yaga Gila gave Senshi, Kishanga Nangshi, any Shana, Tinning Nanzo La, Tajun Yaga Gila Gavadi. Culture Settler, low Gatham of Gom Gamnayang, Kalakabu in Saria, some Rodoa, or Dira. Chetan Dadi Kalakabudi, Throa the Yana. Then the Kalakabudi, Lela Virgin, Kia Gitashi Yorimare. Is Somotana. The divide is someone at Chibara, Umetawa in a Chibara, Mitaba Gulakiwa in a Chibara, Koyani Gulakiwa in a Chibara, any Lamgurimba, Nyamdo Garian and someone at Chibara. The Dagidona, Umetawala, to a Digidua, the Chibara, and Tajinaga Gulakiwa, Dina Shirwa. The Umetawa, the Chesum Chubugi, Chesum Gumsum Chubu Gulaki Relana, Kalakawure, Sonega. Kalakawi. And the Daju Nego the Kalakabodo. Gao Gosong the Song and Najin than Kishanga and Najin Kiagona. Then Maransu Yamyon the Su comparison. Then also Daju Nega Lo Gatham of Gomnayang, Kishanga or get to somebody, Gao Gosong be Song and Nashi, any get to somebody, some Rodo, Kalakabodo. Oh, dear. In the Daju Nega Gila Gary, Daju Nega Gombe Damajiora, Damala Tebaje, Sambaje, Gomgap, Dichibure, Di Maimbe young good and gains in that Hogare. Jedan, any the Nangaran to Kalakabu throw the Kalakabu Garjane. Kalakabu Ransing Dubare. Dira, the Kalakabu the young Lela Chai.
This verse is a supplication and that asks to give rise in our mind stream to a realization of the great rarity and value of the freedoms and assets of a priceless human body in the measure that we just described by the Bodhisattva Gotsampa. But when we look at this, we can understand the importance, the purpose of giving rise to a understanding of the rarity and value of the priceless human body. We can even give rise to the sense of wanting to have that genuine understanding of it. And together with that, we have an experience of how difficult it is to give rise to this particular measure of understanding the rarity and value of the priceless human body. So these two experiences together, both the wish to give rise to this full measure of the understanding of the priceless human body's rarity and value, together with the experience of how difficult it is to do so, serve as the causes that invoke our supplication. When we look at it, it's quite difficult to measure up to Gyawa Gonsampa's explanation of the fully qualified understanding of the freedoms and assets, rarity and value. It's extremely difficult to measure up to the illustrating example of Geshe Chengawa, who is the example of being able to practice day and night as described by Gyawa Gonsampa. So when we have both this understanding of the wish to understand in this way and how difficult it is, the question that naturally comes to mind is, isn't there an easy way to do this? Isn't there a way to do this that's not so difficult? And this is the case with any of the aspects of the path, any of the various aspects of the path, such as in the question about the view of the Madhyamaka, or perhaps it involves impermanence, the deficiencies of samsara, karmic cause and effect. Whatever it may be, the situation is similar to this verse, which is focused on the rarity and difficulty to encounter a priceless human existence. When we try to develop an understanding in its full measure by listening, contemplating, and meditating alone, we find just how difficult that is. It is hard to develop this full measure of understanding as compared to Gyawa Gonsampa's description and the example of Geshe Chengawa. We find that when we try to do that, we just can't. It's very difficult. So then we look at the situation. How is it that what's the process of giving rise to this understanding? It is by listening, contemplating, and meditating on the instructions on the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence that we're able to do so. But is that enough? Are there other conditions we have to gather together? If we try and we find that it's difficult, we should ask, why is it so difficult? Is this difficulty something intrinsic, something unavoidable? And is there some way to make this more user-friendly?
Kom Jamnang, Tresum, Tanjaniga, Nyamlin Jegi, Damala, Trebatan Samba, Kombasum, La Zamba Chimbo Jenayang, Kalekabu Impadi, Rangsing Dubne Maria Kalekabu Imba. Yana Gugin Masangare, Yana Kalgin never never. Dini. Tujing Ngubo Garinayang Galgin Dandal Tingin Tana Tinikiala Lelavore Tingin Masama Galgin Gangrums in your Galgin Never Nena Kiala Galakabure, Pedro Chashana, any Medoji Kiola Chashana and Medodi Kunga Kiana Galakabura Chica Lela Kigira. Chica Yargala.
Nari.
You were Garjine because Kalakabu in Bayan Dubia Mare, Lela in Bayan Dubia Mare. The Galgin Del Tingen Sangoradi, Koran Dujegi Chinira. Duje said that Gugin Sobala Tenekawadi, Dujera Mare.
Nari.
But the name goes to the Korangi Gugin Garay about the Chatang. Tell the Galgingi, Gate Me, Sona, Kia Lelavra. The Chiki Disolara. Kungi Disola Thinking Senda Sama Sang and Kia Kabura. Karsan Galgin never never. O Pe Dinasi, Tanjaniga Re, Umetawa Re. Tanjaniga Combat Damala, Chesum Gumsum Jenny, 20 Jenayang. Any so Masana, Thinking Sayamara. Lami Jilla Majuna, Thinking Sayamara.
Nari.
Ini titik majang na kalgin dalio maro. Di itu kasu ini kalgin titik jang tingin so sa ini lami jilap ju di sumga sanggo gre pena medola ini kalgin karsugro todang toleb na single la sawa ko kalgin gi dini ngobo thangwa sal tingin ini chudan lu cha chang di gala dini nime de 고거도 뒤로도 거긴 차상 달 튕긴 차상 상소나 내려오 계기로
When we engage in the process of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the teachings about the priceless human existence and the difficulty of encountering it, and we do so with great diligence and effort, and still find that it is difficult, we've got some options to consider. Why is it difficult? Perhaps it's difficult because that's just the way it is. It's inherently difficult and there's nothing to do about it. Or perhaps it's difficult because the causes and conditions are not fully gathered for its developing with ease. Or perhaps it's difficult because even though the causes and conditions favorable for its arising are present, there are unfavorable conditions that are blocking it, preventing its occurrence. This is the case with absolutely any of the topics of Dharma to which we listen, contemplate, and meditate. In fact, it's the natural property of all composite things that as long as all causes and conditions are fully present and unfavorable conditions are absent, the results will arise with ease. So this is a system that we can use to examine our situation. We can see how it works in nature. If we try to plant flowers, let's say tulips, in the winter, it's extremely hard to actually cultivate the tulips. But in the spring, they spring up right away. The tulips arise immediately. The difficulty of tulips being cultivated and the ease of being cultivated are not intrinsically existent. It's not necessarily hard or necessarily easy. It depends on the conditions. And in particular, it depends on having the favorable conditions of springtime and avoiding any hindrances. Similarly, when we are engaged in understanding the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence, their great rarity and value, we need to ensure that we've accumulated all the causes and conditions appropriately, gathering all favorable conditions and avoiding all unfavorable conditions, eliminating them. When this is the case, then there is no difficulty in giving rise to the understanding. So when we, in our own situation, find that we are encountering difficulty, we can look at these elements. Are all of the favorable conditions present? Have I eliminated all unfavorable conditions? This is the case whether we are listening, contemplating, and meditating on the rarity of the priceless human existence, on the view of Madhyamaka, or any other topic of the Dharma. We look to whether we've eliminated unfavorable conditions, which corresponds to purifying the obscurations of wrongdoing. Have we gathered the favorable conditions, which corresponds to engaging the blessings of the gurus and gathering stores of merit? This is just like planting our flower seeds in the appropriate time, first clearing away any pebbles, stones, or twigs in the soil that prevent the saplings from arising, and ensuring that the soil is irrigated and fertilized, that it's the appropriate season for the sun's warmth to be as needed. When all of the favorable conditions are present, all of the hindering conditions are absent, the tulips arise beautifully. Our understanding of the Dharma arises with ease.
Hola. O din di ni ngaran su Kasu babada Tanjuniga oro, Tanjuniga Sigoro, the Tanjunigi Tokba di Gulakiola, Kalakabu imba di Karre Lamnadin Manzola, Kalgin Yabadang, Tungi Matami, Kimsingi Kalakabu Tungware. Or things that the Lela was Chayla, Garigore, Lamnadini, Kalgin Sel, Tungin Chatang Jorguar. Or things that was Jeremishigi, any Kongi Lama, Chitin Champion was a Jarrock.
Lari.
Chitin Champion, the Joe Garatang Lam Kongi, Tokba, Nurdu Gila Kivala, Tap Gregores. That Tokba Garinero, Tajunia Gavane, Sunday. Kirim Zolin down the Umetawa down charging Tawa Garene, Tibardo, Chasanga. This Gulakela, Lelo Gulakela, Tap Gregores. To attend the Chitin Champion Garismures Lana Lama Dang, Hidam Irmid Jene, Soadab, Soadabadang. Then it saw Sa Divajamadang. Nyelin Mingnam Kyongala Beba Nilin Mingnam Kyongandang Nilin Mingnam Kyongandang Sumdil la Bes Sumnyam the Dilgores Nilin Mingnam Kyongsana, the Mingnam Dira, then a Dajan Yagala Chachana, Dajan Yabrakawa Tamayora,
Lari.
then other Tanjur Denchare, Danjun Yakaware, Tanjur Chiglaware, the Mingnamra. Mikpasana Danju Milu Kurara,
Lari.
Danju Milu, don't show in Bokomadi number.
Lari.
Dajun go come to Mikpa the number near. Mikpadi, Daju Milu Kurara. That Daju Milu Laming Karukom, Daju Milu di, don't chibures, the Gongora. Danju Milu di near cover, younger near cover is the Gongora. The near Simba the Jigla is the Gongora, till a number figure. Mikpa the number ni zero. Did that any danger don't show insul already Gashamburada. Tell a checkum jagora, Tajo don't show courage in the Dunchore, Condis Dunchore. Didn't Gimsen down Lung Ripa Mango Samatan and Duncho in Gimsendi, Tony didn't Duncho in Bangishikogora, till a sim sage the Negora, Checkumra. Till a Mingnam Slara. Didn't I see the Danju Miludi, Niagawa in body, courage in Niagara, Condis Niagara. The Checkum Jenny, Chevachene, any near going by Nishiki, the Nishidilla, then it seems to the Shagora. Mingnam Sanadira. The dinner I said, Danju Miludi, young Jiglavares, near God and Duncho in Batama, the Jiglavares, the Jiglawa Canisare. The Jiglawa in Gimsengi Tony, the Jiglawa in Balangishiki, and Nishidi Gala, number Shagora. The Chegumra Sama.
Lari.
Mingnam Johnson Dira. Mingnam John Dira. Dida Umeta Gomne Dinesiora. Mitaba Gomne Dinesiora. Mikpa the number gom. Legune Gomne Dinesiora. Mingnamni. Kurenimi Gomne Dinesiora. Didi Mingnam Johnson Dira. The Gomjato de Dira. You got a Shimbala patient, a Shimbagi Sobendora, that is. Kungoma de Dira, Nilengi Gu de Dira. Medo, Tamna Medo is Sobendodi, Jutodra. Oh, dear. Taki Kurangi Diwana Ladini, Lama Soatam and Garajori, Umetawa Gomnadini, Kilak Umetawa de Tony Ton, any Soa de Batam Gitini, Tony To Grevedi. Umetawa and Yamnijo Mare Lagdua.
Lari.
Or these Indicosutini, Pena Shingbadi, Sabin Chibu, Chume, Lume, Same, Nime Dreme, Sabin Chibula, the Medo Ketu, not in the Kiraya Umetawa. So the majority of the Shimba, Dini Shingba Kirangi Sambuli Tong Nima Gonyong Sa Lu Chu the me Nime Dre Gangla Mother, 7 Chibuki, the Lodo Gang in Shingbaji in Kirangi Nina, the Kiran Umetawa, this so at Tamago, Gaya Jemago, Umetawa Chibu, Minam Chibu Gom, and the Gula Gaya was on a degrees. In a champion came with the champion Garisung Relana. Champion Jeremy Garisung Reslana. Lama than Hiram Hermitage in a thought of sooner. Lama than Hiram Hermitage in a thought of soon. The Nime Dread or Jilab Joyagi. Then it saw Tibajang sooner. They love the Tibajang, the Kalgin Sever Sura. Kalgin Tibamajana, the Goka and then Gulaketuma, the Kalakawing race. Gom Jamna and Gulaketumara. Jin the Kalgin Tibachangores. Tungin for Madonna young, Gom Jamna Anthony, Lela Gulaketumara, Kalakagra. Or the Sosa, Tibachang, the Nigarjo, Minam Johnson. Minam Garim, but the Gomgores. Then Lela Gulakegres, Kalgin Natal, thinking each other tongue. Or Dido.
When we are looking at any topic of the Dharma in the context of this verse, particularly the topic on the rarity and difficulty of encountering the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence, how is it that we're able to activate in our mind stream a accurate understanding and a realization of that? Same thing. We need to ensure that all favorable conditions are present and all unfavorable conditions are absent. If the favorable conditions are absent and unfavorable conditions are present, it will remain difficult. So what do we need to make it easier? To remove those unfavorable conditions that are blocking the organic process of developing the understanding and ensure that all the favorable conditions are present. This is something that Je Rinpoche, the Lord Tsongkhapa, directly asked to his own root guru, Manjushri, when he encountered Manjushri face to face. He asked Manjushri, what is the method for quickly activating in the mind stream any given realization? So in other words, if we want to give rise to realization in our mind stream, the Lord Tsongkhapa asked Manjushri, how do we do that quickly? And this question applies to the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence, to the Madhyamaka view, to Mahamudra, anything at all, from the most basic to the highest view is addressed in the same way. What did Manjushri say? Manjushri said that in order to do it swiftly, first supplicate the guru and Yidam, the deity, inseparable. So supplicate the guru as inseparable from the deity. Then ensure that you've gathered the accumulations. Then ensure that you've purified obscurations. And now you're ready to actually take up the point of reference of the meditation. So what does this mean, the point of reference for meditation? Any given practice of listening, contemplating, and meditating has a point of reference and particular features to it. So there's a reference point and points to the reference point. There's specific parts to it. So when we're looking, for example, at listening, contemplating, and meditating on the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence, that priceless human existence itself is the reference point. And what are the subpoints? The subpoints are its great meaning, the rarity of encountering it again once we've found it, and the fragility of that priceless human existence when we have it. These are the subpoints for the general reference point of the priceless human existence, free and full of assets. When we engage in listening, contemplating, and meditating, we're going to go through these subpoints of the priceless human existence, our general point of reference for the practice. One by one, for example, we say, well, why is it that the priceless human existence is so valuable? This is something that we do in the analytical meditation phase of meditative inquiry. In that meditative inquiry, we engage experiential inquiry through scriptures and reasonings and in a great quantity until we're able to develop clear knowing, certainty as to the great meaning, which is the first point of the pricelessness of a human existence. Through the experiential analysis of meditative inquiry, we explore the subpoint of the great meaning of the priceless human existence until we develop a clear knowing. This is the practice of Dharma. That clear knowing, once we've developed it, is something that we then integrate in the resting phase of the meditation. That meditative inquiry is one that involves the experiential inquiry to give rise to the clear knowing, and then we rest in meditation with that clear knowing as the focus. This is that process. Then we turn to the next subpoint with respect to the priceless human existence, how fragile it is, how even when we encounter it, how rare and difficult that situation is. It is extremely fragile. And we go through the same process with meditative inquiry, first engaging in experiential analysis until developing clear knowing, and then resting in meditation in that clear knowing. This is the same with any particular topic of the Dharma, be it the Madhyamaka view, impermanence, karmic cause and effect, the deficiencies of samsara. These 2 points, the particular point of reference, which is the subject matter, such as the priceless human existence, and then the points that make up that understanding, such as the meaningfulness of the priceless human existence, its rarity and difficulty to encounter it, and its fragility. This reference point and its subpoints are the main object of our meditation. They are the primary cause for giving rise to the understanding of our topic, just like the seed of the flower is the primary cause for cultivating the flower. But just that alone, is that sufficient? For example, we have this question, don't you need the view of the Madhyamaka in order to realize the emptiness? Isn't that sufficient? Well, that would be like taking a seed in your field and just sitting there and waiting for it to sprout. No water, no fertilizer, no sun, no warmth, but we've got the seed. It's the important part. So the flower should arise sometime. If that's how we look at the primary cause for understanding the view of the Madhyamaka or any other topic of the Dharma, we'll be waiting a long time. You can look at any field all across the world and find the experience there. If all you have is a seed, is that enough? Does a harvest arise? It doesn't. And yet we think that with the seed of the view of the Madhyamaka or any other topic of Dharma, that should be enough. That's all we need. Manjushri disagrees. He begs to differ. What Manjushri tells the Lord Tsongkhapa is, first, supplicate the Guru as inseparable from the Yidam. This is like the warmth of the sun. Then gather the accumulations. This is the full set of favorable conditions. Then purify obscurations. This is the elimination of unfavorable conditions that would prevent the cultivation of our harvest, would suppress it, even with the presence of the others. Once we have all of these in place, then things are easy. If we don't have all the favorable conditions, it's difficult. If we have unfavorable conditions present, it's difficult. But what Manjushri is saying is, gather the accumulations. These are the favorable conditions. pray to the guru inseparable from the yinam, more favorable conditions. Purify the obscurations, which is eliminating unfavorable conditions. Now you're ready to address that primary cause, the meditation on the topic and its subpoints, such as the priceless human existence or whatever it may be. Now all the favorable conditions are present. Now all the unfavorable conditions are eliminated. Now you can plant your seed and expect a harvest.
di indi dini di nangshi dini nga zo kadam be gyewe shinyin chigi yang sung yore kongi gar sung yore lamna kapsu sharla so sa diba jang sadang lama la soadeb shing rishing dang chene nendendu gomna aso rishing sana tundi la labwa ang chede nendendu gomna as jerme chede chikpare sharla sosa dibajang kalginsel tungin jor tene sadang lama la soadab chinlab chugoche tene mingnam kare na da tanjon nyga ina tanjon nyga mingnam chewa mitaba mingnam la soba di mingnam komjagi mingnam kare ina dela rishing dang chede tundi chede nendendu gom so da nendendu gomna tene kare yongre lo gyare yang mige nyamba shigyang duje sona minebes chisingna kyawra gyuru so tene ngaso dangbo mingnam gyonga chibula gomgyap usugyap tini kiela kala khabora karsana galgin jangyo mare tungen sonam so sayo mare ani lame chilab yo mare tini mingnam gyonga chibula tini usugyap ne tini gomdiga so ama ta dida lo gya gomna tini kesa mare sumsamdo nyamnyong de yora di nyamnyong tini kala khade ko so garji wora sharla so sa dibajang en sadan lama la so da so disum 속배 거네 tini mingnam jangdang tagi kirang lo gyala kesa mari samedi le labo kigre yasu nima chik ni la kigre tawa chik ni la kigre chisingna kyora gi duje sona mine besana duje di tagwa mare sone tonda gare sona tagi lo gyala kesa mari sa kale khagodi ta le labo chagre sone kare jene sena lo gyala kesa mari sa kale khagodi rangsing dubyo marwa di gyugin masong gimchen dang galgin nyagar ne gimchen ra de galgin di jang tingin di domna tini dagi lo gyala kesa mare samsam de nima chingni na ke sigres tawa chingni na ke sigres
There is a Kadampa Geshe who also referenced to this exact topic. What did he say? He said, you have to ensure that on one hand, you're gathering the accumulations and purifying obscurations, together with praying, supplicating the Guru and Yidam inseparable. Once you have that set up, then yes, apply yourself with great diligence to the topic of meditation. This is just as we looked at now. Then he continues, if you do this, what is difficult to develop, even in the course of 100 years, becomes easy. In this way, you'll attain awakening, Buddhahood. So what does this mean? What he's saying is, you could really apply yourself to a topic and its subpoints through listening, contemplating, and meditating with great eagerness, forcing it, trying to force it to happen with great stubbornness. Really apply yourself to that meditation practice of any given topic and its subpoints, but no supplication for blessing, no gathering of the accumulations, no purifying the obscurations. Without those three, it can be extremely difficult. Even spending 100 years in this stubborn, forceful practice may not give rise to anything. It will still be difficult. But with these three present, the blessings of the Guru and Yidam inseparable, purifying obscurations, gathering accumulations, what would have been difficult to develop in even 100 years becomes much easier in 12 months or even possibly a day. This thing that became so difficult over 100 years is not inherently difficult. It's not difficult per se. It can become easy. How? By ensuring that all the causes and conditions are present, that all unfavorable conditions blocking its development are eliminated, and all favorable conditions supporting its development are present. When that is the case, what would have been difficult to develop in the course of 100 years can easily arise in 12 months or even a day. It's possible.
Hola. 디인들이 것도 디제 탐절이 찍어라. 그런 거라서 매도 찍게라. 되니 추르 님이들 디수 강라에 맞아 서변 찍불을 되니 매도 겨 지긴세나. 디 싱바 찍 먹어 선불링을 옆에 싱바 상만 냠도 저 처네. 얘는 배설 전에 게 두고 말해. 싱바 선불링이 싱바 상만 찍다 쳐. 얘는 서류 도셔를 맞아 서변 찍불을 되니 매도 겨 지긴세나. 되는 로 gyam고 깔바 gyatama 배들 전에 선불링이 싱바 상만 찍도 들네. 미스버래. 서류 출루 도셔 아니 닐렌 서변 촉발할 때네 갈긴 차당 덜 튕기 차당 상황할 때네 싱바찌기 다와 카시 나라 다와 찡니 나라더니 매도 겨와서 두 그래 가르너 찌기 맞아 플라리라 매도 망보여라 가르너 찌기 뭐도 요 말이
라레.
가르너 찌기 매도 겨라 다와 찡니 뭐도 그러고 말해 그러지니라나 튕긴 차당 상 저긴 잘 와라 내려 와라 갈긴 마방 어제 튕긴 마상 어제네더니 끼워 속인서는 가르너 찌기 먹거든 선불인 가르너 상마 찌기로 써는데 배들 전에 배들 그냥 다와 찌기 말에 깔바 버드 지내더니 깨 두고 말해 깨 쓰기 말해
This is the case with all conditioned things. All composite things have this natural property. For example, returning to our flower, if we are intent on ensuring that we can grow our flower with a seed alone, no water, no fertilizer, no warmth of the sun, you can take as many seeds as you like and plant them in every single field of the world, but without the water, fertilizer, and sunlight and warmth that the seeds need. In 100 years, in 100 eons, that flower just won't grow. The causes and conditions aren't present. To actually ensure that it happens requires that we reverse this situation. In that case, the favorable conditions, water, fertilizer, the warmth of the sun, are absent. The unfavorable conditions are present, the absence of those things. So if that's the case, the flower will never grow. If, however, you reverse it, bring together all the favorable conditions, eliminate the unfavorable conditions. Now the seed has the water, the fertilizer, the warmth it needs. In a little garden plot, you can grow that flower with ease. You can grow it every month, all year round, if you like, as long as the situations are all there, all of the conditions are present. Here at Pulahari, we are favored with a beautiful array of flowers. There's an absolutely astonishing amount of different kinds of flowers and one gardener, and the flowers grow with ease. Why is that? Because Pulahari is flush with the favorable conditions to grow flowers, and the unfavorable conditions are quickly eliminated. If that's the case, then the gardens of Pulahari are easy to cultivate. But without the favorable conditions, and instead with the full presence of unfavorable conditions, as many gardeners as you like all the fields of the world, you can wait 100 years, 100 kalpas, and the flower won't grow. It's impossible for the flower to grow under those conditions.
All 이인들은 그냥 매도 토고 말에 대부 거래 토고리라는 그냥 당시에도 이래. 이 모두 대부 전화 토고 말에.
So in that situation, you won't get any flowers. What harvest will you get? You'll get the harvest of being extremely tired. Other than being extremely tired, you will have no fruits of your toil.
All 이네다 그런게 디원나라 correction 제거에 그러들었나? 솔바 데바 짬기, 소와 데바 짬기 수직 라비야 말하디. 소사 디바장 민남경 라도. 민남경에는 소와 거래다 버려. 소와 데바 거랍니다. 소와 거래다 거. 달절니까 길게 와서 나오라다. 달절니까 공부하라. So they were some remedy. Some of the Gamidara. So there was some Lagomara. So saw Tibajang. Then Mingnam Jong Lavra. The Nyamdu saw Tablara. So the Bad Chigra. So there was some Mara. Tambu Dishi, the Yabu, Nene, then some Yabu Tang Sama Latini. When a genetic Kazan shares the land draws her off.
Nade.
Some Latini, Yabu Nene, some of Tang. The Tobagia Meda, Onizina. Some of the so at the way the young that 6 Morocco. So the Chilabi Lamres, that dinner some young saw Yomara. Chilab Gorilla Sugar. Dungeon Nega Gulagia, Midaba Gulagia, Gulagia and Gomgagora. So there was some synergy, some dead young Samido. The dish is some Nena, Nena Samlatana, Nia Boyora. Then someone Nena, the new Jodi Lemna, Jodi Young Yabulegra.
Nade.
You're not the Pasagre.
And then there's a point of correction that I need to make in these questions. There's a constant theme of these questions of how can we attain this or that by just supplicating alone? Who said supplicating alone? Supplication is only one point. There's also the gathering of the accumulations, the purifying of the obscurations. Supplication is one of the various favorable conditions. Nobody said supplication alone will do that. You still need all of the conditions. When we're talking, as in this verse, about the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence, you need to meditate on that in order to give rise to it in the mind stream. That is the main cause. Supplication alone is never the instruction. The point is that the supplication is what supports the primary cause, the meditation on the topic and its subpoints. So the supplication supports that, as does gathering the accumulations and purifying the obscurations. Nobody said that supplication alone will do that. It's one of various points. So when we're looking at any Dharma teaching, it's really critical to pay attention to the full explanation, to really listen to the explanation and to think very carefully about it. This is how it works for anything. Whenever we are really trying to understand a teaching, we need to really pay attention with care. And then when it comes to the topic of supplication, there was never any indication that a bare, naked supplication is sufficient. The explanation given is that it needs to be a supplication that is more than mere words. It needs to be a supplication that actually activates the approach to the blessings. This is the case for any supplication. But if the supplication is for the blessing of, for example, developing the understanding of the priceless human existence or impermanence or whatever it may be in our mind stream, the supplication does not mean that you no longer need to meditate. That's the primary cause. The meditative inquiry of experiential analysis and resting is still necessary. Nobody said the supplication alone was sufficient. When we listen to any Dharma teaching, it's really important to pay attention to the full explanation and to think about it carefully. Once we've listened and we've analyzed, then the questions that come up are appropriate questions that correspond. If we just immediately come up with a question without really considering, listening with care and thinking about it, then what comes up is a bunch of doubts because of not spending the time and care to listen to the explanation as needed.
Hola. Di hola ya lende lua mebare dine sowa deba samgi dine le gyurtu gurbe sedang dine sangi gi dikwa pang gyawa la tun dewa di jine dine dewa thubgure laure sowa deba samgi dungal pang thugurbe di so yung da dewa di sowa deba samgi di chagare lagu dine so sa deba jang lagu do samgi dine samda yung samida so sa deba jang sowa tab laura So the Tangi Thama Shagres, Chosam Gumsum go Maradini, Tebajago Mara, Sambajago, Gomgago Mara, then so Saw Mara, Debajang Mara, so what you would have the Lama from Chigis. The explanation about
Lade. And then there's another similar question focused on karmic cause and effect. And the question is basically that karma is infallible. So how can supplication alone actually alter the course of karma and be a situation contrary to what the Buddha taught, that only good deeds can free us from suffering and happiness. So how is it that praying to the guru can be sufficient? Again, who said that supplication alone was sufficient? Supplication is part of a whole that includes gathering the accumulations and purifying obscurations. I didn't say at any point, if you supplicate alone, you don't have to listen, you don't have to contemplate, you don't have to meditate, you don't have to gather accumulations, you don't have to purify obscurations. That was never said. It's really important to listen with care.
All of them. The Gasuda, Chitun Champiangi, Jeremy Chela Sungadi, then saw Savadan, Tibetaniki, give me bache. Any so at the bell, then it's love to watch it. Tiki Karchagre, Narangi Simkudi, Chesum Gumsum Karina, Tajanega in Tajanega, Chivamitava in Chivamitava, Umetawa in Umetawa Karina, Humja Karina della, Chesum Gumsum Jagora. The Chesum Gumsum Jabala, Nurung Chagora, Nudruma Chagora, Narangi Sendi, Dilla Karjagorilla, Sosa, Tibajang, so at the Baladine, Chilab Chubache. Tisum Jenny Karchagre, Sosa Division Ladin, Narang Mingere, any Digala Sotaval, then Lamichila Jugure, Di Gangla Dini, Delatene, Tevatan Sambo Compagena, then it Tebesherabke, some Besherabke, Combesherabke, then Lamgila Kigres. Tanda dire, some day Yomara.
The process is just as Manjushri explains to the Lord Tsongkhapa. We need to bring together the supporting conditions of gathering the accumulations and purifying the obscurations. And together with that, supplicate the Guru as and Yidam inseparable for access to the blessings. Once this happens, then we are ripe for engaging in the practice that activates in our mind stream an understanding of whatever topic we're practicing, be it the freedoms and assets of our priceless human existence, the impermanence of mortality, the view of Madhyamaka, whatever it may be. Now we're ready for listening, contemplating, and meditating. This process of gathering the accumulations, purifying obscurations, and praying for the blessings is what actually makes us a suitable vessel for the practice. It ripens our mind. It makes our mind ready, fertile, and capable of developing the harvest of prajna, the precise knowledge that accurately understands our topic. So the gathering of the accumulations, purifying of the obscurations, and supplication for blessing, all three together is what ripens the mind, allows us to actually be receptive to the blessings. And then sequentially, we develop the precise knowledge coming from listening, the precise knowledge coming from contemplation, the precise knowledge coming from meditation. And just so, the path is activated in our mind stream.
Hola, Tidore. O tin da dring of the Danda Tanjunika Kola Shiguare. Then it Danjurnika Tokbo Julakawa. Tanda Sunday Digaras and Tanjunika Tokbo Julakawa, Silam Noronas, Satagora. Then Sunday the Yongi Judy Garelana, Kasanga Peshan Shesma, Pu Chung di Tohoto de Gazu. Tohoto with Dungal throw the in Masabarachik. Dele Krang Rangdok you told to go Mare. In the Dungal Delek of Gindingana Amare, some Yeshe Yavani. Dele Tenedine, Amas and a Kigagua, Mugi Ganadine, Kalatela Gua. Or the Indian Sunday didn't Dogores. Sunday Chungedi, Gulat in Yongura, some Gulat in Yongura, some Gudi Matana, Sunday the Sixth Chagre, Digi Chilab Chutumara, or the Sunday Nibadi, Garilan, Chilab Chubi, Lambre Sedi, any Mugu Gitawala in Yongura, said the Chilab Gitawa Mugures, that the Deshet someone near Samatangara. Any some dog away, Dinanda, begin Matango. 그게 뭐 못한 거고 맞아 좀 더 요말 거야. 어디니 먹이 따와라 되네 연구를 해라 그래서 다 먹이디 그래라나. 그래서 바발아 되는 거라서 단줄니에 가와디 게 고여바디시 네 줄에 깨와디 칼카 in the Junior Gula Devaye Kemato Pugunjun de Kala Dogodo, Koran Kala Koranju Kala Samatu, Kalanimatu, Dini, or Corona Kalating in Amares Yeshe, Amas, Kate Sungora. Pedra Yakusonotana, then Goyora, Guanigira. Or this Sunday the Diro Yongo, something cut the Maimba. Not most service. Kadam yönü most service çeker.
Nare.
Değil ki 주tumara. 어디인데 가서 드니 쌤 딩네 용거라 설대디. 쌤 딩네 용에들라다 kapsu babadi 그래서는 단줄 니에가디 줄에 고구두 선에 고바 첨부 이마시 이니 델라 돈여 첨부 예. 이니 깨라 칼레카부 좀깨 마투 Matubdu Garagan, Gugin Matara. Kalgin never never Gugin Matara, Gugin Chicker, and the Lamis Jilla Chubadre. The Lamis Jilla Chubachu, Gigri Laguamara. Gugin Chick the Lamis Jilla Chubare, the Lama Sota. Lama la sunte de yungara.
So in this verse, which is supplicating the Guru for the blessing of giving rise in our mind stream, activating in our mind stream, a realization of the rarity and difficulty of encountering a priceless human existence with its freedoms and assets, where does that supplication come from? How do we actually activate supplication's potential for engaging the blessing? It comes out of our own experience. It's like the example of the hungry child. The child is very hungry. Their stomach is empty, and they really feel the discomfort of hunger very sharply. At the same time, they somehow know that they're unable to fulfill their wish to have some food to relieve the hunger. They're unable to relieve their own hunger, and they know that their mother is the one who can do so. So they have this sharp discomfort of hunger first, and the understanding second that their mother is able to relieve that hunger. So then what happens? They cry out for their mother for food. It's natural. It's what happens as a natural consequence of the experience of hunger and the awareness that their mother can relieve it. This is what we need to bring together for a supplication to actually actively serve as the efficient cause for engaging the blessings. We need to ensure that all of these conditions are present. Otherwise, it's mere words. It's just lip service. Supplication that is lip service is not able to connect with the blessings. If we really think about the topic that we're meditating on, in this case, the priceless human existence, we really listen to the teachings again and again, consider them, really bring them to mind, then we need to gather all of the causes and conditions as well. It's not supplication alone that will do that. And the root source of supplication we learned was devotion, reverent gratitude. So how do we put all of this together? In the context of this verse, we understand the great meaning and purpose of realizing the rarity of the priceless human existence. We have the experience of how difficult it is to give rise to that in our mind stream, even though we strongly wish to do so. Then, like a hungry child who can't feed itself, we cry out for relief. The hungry child cries out to the mother for relief from hunger. We cry out from the very depths of our hearts in a manner that is not lip service, so that we can engage the blessings through supplicating the Guru. A supplication that is mere words, lip service alone, is superficial. It does not actively serve as the path for engaging the blessings. However, when we supplicate from the very depths of the heart, out of the experience of the great meaning of understanding the priceless human existence with its rarity and difficulty to encounter, and we couple that with our urgent wish to be able to understand that properly, along with the experience of how difficult it is, how even with all that together, it's hard to do, where are we left? We can think, well, why is it so difficult? It's so difficult because the causes and conditions are not complete. And what is one of those causes and conditions? It is activating the blessings of the gurus. It's not the only cause, but it is one of the causes and conditions. So with that understanding that this is what it depends on, this is part of what it depends on, we engage in the supplication to the guru from the depths of our heart.
Di sundip di yongye de kandere la na pena mazo daljuru duen chimbo imba la goa ye understanding yore ine nyamnyong la lingua mare di nyamnyong male di langlen la yo maro goa la yore langlen la yo mare di jedan dine sim kyo go ara da daljuru duen chimbo imba ha go yore ine langlen la daljuru duen chimbo imba beje tang to go mare di ni gi bardal dine challenging do
Nare.
Digidini Sundeb Legirada. Talju Dunchimbo 하고기 열에 이네 냠뇽라 달저 된침보 고투고요 말에 디 메디드니 달저 된침보 임버디 랑렌 랄렙투고요 말에 삼로라 달저 된침보 삼 랑렌라 달저 추세도 땅 디 삼로나 랑렌이 갈바도고도 삼로라 달저 된침보레 삼기도 하고도 히나 랑렌라 달저 톨라 땅고도 디니 서로 끼기라 삼로래 달저 던진 하마고는 달저 추서도 돌아든 서로 가요 말아 추서도 두개 와 하고 말아 어디다더니 삼로래 여바 랑래나 매바디 이 선적이 교래 디 하고도 가서더니 이 교인바디 하고 그래 해나 랑래나 따르고 말아 어디다 랑래나 마드라 어디 귤라 막혀 와라 어디 귤라 막혀 어디 껴 제고 어디 개침부래도 어디 그래서 기긴 망보 여러디 나니 기긴 찌 그래서 라미 찔라브래 디인상 라마라 서다 고라 선제도 내고 와라
To be specific, the experience of supplication, the active experience from the depths of our heart of supplication comes about when we have an understanding of the great meaning and purpose of, in this case, the priceless human existence, but we don't have an experiential understanding. In other words, we understand it intellectually, but it's not deep going. It hasn't reached an experiential understanding. And what does that mean? If we don't have an experiential understanding, then we don't actually live under that understanding. We don't put it into practice. We don't implement it in our life. It's not integrated into our life. This is important. When we have that situation of understanding the great importance of the priceless human existence intellectually, but lacking the experiential understanding to integrate it into our lives, this is also a case where we become disappointed, discouraged. But we can use this discouragement in a good way. We can try to see, well, how does this actually help? That intellectual understanding of the great meaning and purpose of the priceless human existence, which gives us a wish to understand it experientially, is at odds with the lack of experiential understanding, the inability to bring it into our daily lives. We have an intellectual understanding, but we're unable to activate it in our experience and bring it into our lives. We have the sense that we are wasting that time in our life because we haven't integrated it. So those two are in conflict. The mindset that wants to understand the priceless human existence to its full measure, knowing its great importance and meaning, and the inability to integrate it in our life are in conflict. When this happens, this is the ripe place for supplication. If we don't even have an intellectual understanding of the importance of a priceless human existence, we won't have any feeling for it. We won't have any longing for it. We won't have a mindset that seeks to develop it. There's no cause that drives us to supplication. It's when we have that understanding of the importance of a priceless human existence and the experience of not being able to integrate it, even though we want to, that's what drives us to supplicate. That's the cause of supplication. We understand its importance. We see how we're unable to develop the experiential understanding that implements that into our life. And we recognize that the reason that hasn't happened is because there are many causes and conditions that have not been brought together. Knowing that one of those causes is supplicating the Guru for blessing, we naturally cry out to the Guru with longing.
Hola. Ini datang atau danjur. Ini datang atau danjur dan siapa yang badi kanjis haku gure langa. Danjur dan siapa yang badi. Kangla dini ngijung keju kasu korwa 동알도 통 델레 단적이 삼바께 탈바 데워시 탈바 톰적이 삼바께 이 내중당 탈바 되냐 이 삼바께 가서 다 코르바 빵롱 인베시 코르바 빵 괴바시 중얼 인베시나 빵 괴바로 풀바 인베시나 빵도 롱하러 어디 빵 괴바다 빵도 롱하시리 가서 되니 빵 괴 삼바데 영으로 빵을 지기 삼바데 영으로 되니 코르바 빵 괴바다 빵도 롱하니가래 지나시 냥을 대바 톱 괴바다 톱도 롱하니가래 그러려면 냥을 대바 톱 괴바인데 대화로 대외 중내로 대화는 인정이 중내로 톱도 롱하인데 랑기 생기 중이로
Mare.
어디 있는데 톱 괴바다 톱도 롱하니가 시리 탈바다 이렇게 이 지리 것이다 크로와 달네 탈바 톱발라 거르제 고래라나 크로의 동을기 규 군중기 님보 당 탈바 톱에 애니 람덴라 냠네 지고 그래 디로 디서 상계기 템바시바디 람 템버자 아송로 근데 람덴라 냠네 지고도 가서 되네 듀와 거래 그래 람덴 난도 냠네 제투 그래 듀와로 듀와디기 렌라 거래 용거라나 야스 거르제네라나 달조 톱경 달조 톱 요레스 디 거래라나 디 심제 탐제 크로와 달 심제 탐제 크로와 달도 롱아라 심제 탐제 크로와 달 고바라 심제 탐제 달도 롱아라 심제 탐제 냥알에 대바 톱 고바라 톱도 롱아라 상마 찍어라 디 이네 심제 탐제 리댕기 땡도 에는 크로와 빵는 냥데 톱 두그래라나 두고 말해 뭐나 리댕 거래 땡도 톱 그래 달조기 밀루기 땡도 톱 그래 했습니다 이 거래제네라나 크로와 빵에게 님보당 냥데 톱에게 규 남기 된바디 에는 냠는 제들 리딘 도와 리두기 리딘 상매 땡도 냠는 제 두고 말해 거래제네라나 도와 리두기 리딘 신다기 땡도 냠는 제 두고 거래제네라나 람제 냠는 제에게 걸긴 달려 말해 걸긴 여르네 말해 퉁긴 상여 말해 이래다 어디 있는데니 걸긴 거래 미콘 베네게 퉁긴 거래 랑조르 셀조르 졸바주 어디 있는데 달주르기 도와리 신다게 되니 리딘라 아니 걸긴 미콘 베네게 여르네 말해 양나 퉁긴 랑조르 셀조르 가우노 마타 말해 어디 이제 가서 나랑스 밀리디 단다 리딘디 달와게 미군베니에게 엔 갈기 미군베니 개가단 달 튕기 랑줄 senjurunga 상 어디 이제 가서 되는 갈겐 달 튕긴 상나 루트그라 디레다 디자데니 만줄 리딘디 된침보레 가르제니람나 크로빵 투그레 털바드 투그레 김진 크로빵에 그냥뭐 털바드게 규 남된 냠는 제에게 되니 땡 역셔레 리딘 역셔레 갈겐 달 튕긴 상황 디지도 가서 되니 된침 보임 받는 게 시키기도 와
How is it then that we're able to come to this realization of the value of the priceless human existence and its rarity, it's the difficulty of encountering it? Well, it starts out by seeing samsara as characterized by suffering. Seeing samsara as suffering and understanding that it is a liberation, that is bliss, that is genuine happiness, we naturally have a wish to be free of suffering and to attain liberation. When we look at the suffering that is the characteristic of samsara, we naturally want to be free of it. We have this sense of it's necessary to eradicate this state of utter suffering that is samsara. this discontent and lack of fulfillment that is the characteristic of samsara, and that is a deluded appearance of mind. It's a delusive experience. Together with that need to be free of it, there's an understanding that it is something that can be eradicated. It's something that can be eliminated because it's a delusive experience. If it's a delusive experience, then that delusive quality can be eliminated. Once we have this sense of, I need to be free of this suffering, and this is something that can happen, it's possible, we naturally have the commitment, I will do it. I will eradicate the suffering that is samsara. Together with that, the same process applies with respect to liberation. We have an understanding of the need to attain liberation. That's what will actually fulfill the wish of having attained genuine happiness. Together with that, we know that this is something that's possible to attain. Why? Because that is the true nature of our mind. The true nature of our mind is this genuine bliss, the excellent qualities of liberation. So having a full understanding of the need to attain liberation and the ability to do so, the accessibility of the liberation, that it is possible, we develop this urgent seeking for liberation. This leads us to the question of how do we do it? How are we able to be free of samsara and attain liberation? This is something that requires a remedy to the origin of samsara, the kleshas, as the Buddha explains in the Four Truths. To attain liberation, we must eradicate the origin of suffering, that is samsara, and rely on the true path to attain liberation. This is as the Buddha teaches in the fourth of the Four Truths of realized beings, rely on the true path. Once we understand that much, we've gotten that far, then the next question that naturally comes to mind is can I do it or not? And the answer is yes. Why? Because the mere fact that we've attained a priceless human existence with its freedoms and assets is what is necessary. That is what is necessary to attain liberation. Think about it. All sentient beings are the same in that they wish to be free of the suffering characterizing samsara. All sentient beings are the same in that suffering is something that can be eradicated. All sentient beings, same. They want to attain the liberation of genuine bliss without end, free of all suffering. They are all the same in that liberation is something that is possible to attain. But can they attain it in the particular physical form that they have? Is the foundation of their experience, their body, their experience, one that allows that? No. Only the priceless human existence, free and full of assets, is what allows us to actually engage in the practice of the true path. And this is not a quality shared by all 6 classes of wanderers in samsara. To rely on the true path as the Buddha directs, we need a full set of the favorable conditions, and we need to be free of the unfavorable conditions. The unfavorable conditions consist of the 8 leisureless states that do not allow for the leisure to engage in Dharma practice. The favorable conditions consist of the 8 freedoms and the 10 assets, personal and communal, that allow us to engage in Dharma practice. Without all of these, we're unable to put the true path into practice. With the existence that has all 8 freedoms, the 10 assets together, the human existence that is priceless indeed, we're able to put the Dharma into practice. This is our human existence. This is what allows us to eradicate the suffering of samsara and attain the genuine bliss of liberation. This is why the priceless human existence is the best of all possible foundations. It is one without the unfavorable conditions impeding Dharma practice. It is rich in the favorable conditions allowing Dharma practice. This is how we can gain confidence in the great meaning and purpose of this human existence, priceless indeed.
Hola. Tini danjur dunchawala. Danjur dunchawa imbadidini goa kela. Tini ngazo gangi korwala ngijungdan tarpa dunirgi lodi yana. Tini dela tini danjur dunchawa imbadi gotu gure. Godang di dandana shinda. Korwa pang tarpa tubela lam dengo gure. Ini lam dubela lam dube lidendi kechambara. Odin zandina lidendi doa ridugi nangne ini yakshi around me liden talwa gyojoba jusama darawa. Di indikazu ini manzi lidendi hajangi dunchiwa imba kotugura. Lidendi ge korwa pang tugure tarpa tugure. Korwa pang tugure sudu korwa kyengare korwa dungulgi gyasolabra. Di dungal hajang gyachimboda tingsabarwa. Ngato dungal re pang tune adine pemesu ngosachimbo chigora. Pena ngaraso go nane ini menji jine go nae de dasona pe ngato ngosachimbo chigora. Ne di negabre ine kyunchig pangro. Dia negap sam pangro. Ine adine kowa dungal gi gyaso sidigaso dungal thayeba di tendo pangtuna hajang ngosachimbo. Tene pang tuye de dambe chue ki tendi dine nganzu mili dire tawa gechirba ju samade tiyan za dine hajang duen chimbara di shib thakbo je samdana tene duen chimbo imba de dine goya butke gire dina shi tarbi yinden la samdana yinden taye barwa tiyan nganzu misi dila yinden na rerizam tiyan negab samgi yinden re 근데 나를 두발라야들이 모두 못을 좀 쓰기로 어디에 탈비 인된 땡기 대와 땡도에 인된 어디서 타이바 디 두베기 규 담베치레 담베치 두베기 땡 아니 단적이 밀리레 밀리마도 아니 리데이션다 간라 두고 말해 어디 섬로단디 아니 타이베 인된 두베 람기테 임바 텔랑이시케나 덴시보 임발라드네 미시케기레
With this understanding of the great meaning and purpose of the priceless human existence, we are able to put this whole process into effect. This is the mindset that is reoriented away from samsara, urgently seeking liberation. When we have that mindset, we recognize that we need to rely on the path to make that happen, to fulfill our wish of abandoning samsara, of eradicating samsara, and accomplishing liberation. We need to rely on the path, and to rely on the path, we need the foundation, the support for practicing the path, which is the priceless human existence with its freedoms and assets. This is the understanding of the priceless human existence, great meaning and purpose. We understand that it is the best possible basis for relying on the true path to liberation. And to the extent that we have all of the freedoms and assets of a priceless human existence, we can make use of it. So now we see why it is so very important, why it is continually emphasized. It is the best possible basis for eradicating samsara and attaining liberation. Eradicating samsara is no small thing. Samsara is often described as an ocean of suffering to exemplify that that the suffering of samsara is broad and deep. And when we think of things in our ordinary life, say we have a headache and we take medicine or something that relieves the headache, we think, oh, how wonderful. This is great. But that's a very temporal thing. It's a very minor thing. We're talking about an ocean of suffering, infinitely broad and deep. Eliminating that, eradicating it altogether so that it never recurs. Now that's marvelous. This is what the priceless human existence with its freedoms and resources affords. This is why it is so incredibly valuable and meaningful. Continually examining this experientially with great subtlety and detail is what gives rise to an intellectual understanding of that. In the same way, we develop understanding of the excellent qualities of liberation, limitless in extent. Here too, in our ordinary everyday lives, we encounter pleasant occurrences and we marvel at how wonderful they are. Yet liberation is much more profound. Continual, genuine happiness that never stops, that never will stop. This is truly marvelous. The cause for accomplishing that is the genuine Dharma, the basis for putting the Dharma into practice, bringing it into our experience. The best possible basis is the human existence of freedoms and resources. This is priceless, like no other. When we understand this, we understand that the priceless human existence is the basis for accomplishing the true path. We recognize that it is how we're able to attain the infinite excellent qualities of liberation. And we have confidence in the meaning and purpose of the priceless human existence, difficult to encounter.
Hola. Dinde penangranzo tarbi tenyerdang any krowala tarba tenyerdang krowala krowing jungdi krowala ngeberjumadi somebody the dido krowi dungal gi kyen relation to dang tarbi dewadang yendingi any yendin relation to catchwadan things of relation to somlatane in di langdur jedi tap dambe chokona imba ijigide gosu ta krowala ngeber jung에 somlodi gazigi things of the gachimbo dinasin tarba dunigi sambade gazigi gachimbo the things of yana 대점기 디 탑 지구르기에 담배 쳐라 되니 대바 숙심복 계그래 탑디 담배 쳐면도 요 말아 디인자들이 말아 겸내 군조 숨셔 그래 군조 숨나니 또 되그래 최근 쳐라 겸내디 최근 쳐래 송라 최근 쳐된 거랑 되길래 깨지 가서 그러게 등을 절 그래 탈배 편인 좀 그래 디인진 가서 뭐서더니 크로알에 겹긴디 담배 쳐라 어디 담배 쳐들라더니 대바당 가와디 가지 개침부터 띵서부 계기래디 아니 크로알라 크로와 빵대당 털바 tum적이 삼바디 가지 개침부터 띵서부였나 디르베더니 콘데기 랑더디 제기 탑 담배 쳐커나 임바 이시게나 담배 쳐라 대정기 대바 계기로 디께서나 아니 담배 쳐 능킹기 라마들랑 Kadin Sangil and Hangwa said, Dilatini Gira, Dimena mouth young lip service, Dimena Lama Dini, Lama Sangila Kadin Hawara said, young lip service.
Not a.
Through the Yona Rangsing Lera, Chu the Dinetachimbo, Chu Nankingus, Nanking Lamadian, Dinasitachimora, Kadishimora. This through the Gira. Ikena. 담배 치 두개게 땡디야 되는 단주로 밀리면 매바 시대 가서 단주 밀리 던져가 이마대야 되는 섬로 띵서부 계기라
This urgency seeking liberation comes about by really setting our mind to considering all of the failings of samsara, developing the mindset that reorients the mind from samsara to liberation involves looking at the failings of samsara one by one with great detail, with great subtlety. And together with that, looking at considering the excellent qualities of liberation one by one in great detail. We see then that the flaws of samsara are broad and deep, and the excellent qualities of liberation are broad and deep. This is what reorients our mind, gives up on samsara and turns instead towards liberation. This is what activates the process of making choices in accord with this understanding, choosing what is in accord with the excellent qualities of liberation, attaining those, and choosing to give up what leads us farther into samsara. What is the method for doing that, for making those choices of what to adopt and what to reject, what to embrace and what to shun? There is no method other than the genuine Dharma. So what this is saying is, to the extent we have understood, we've considered the failings of samsara with great detail. To the extent we have considered the infinite excellent qualities of liberation with great detail, to that same extent, we have a proportionate faith in the Dharma. The faith in the Dharma depends on our understanding of the failings of samsara and the qualities of liberation. The method for attaining that liberation and eradicating samsara is the genuine Dharma of the three sources of refuge, the rare and supreme ones, the three jewels. The principal one is the rare and supreme Dharma. It is the rare and supreme Dharma that is the method for eradicating samsara and attaining all of the myriad infinite blessings of liberation. This is the quality of the genuine Dharma. It is also the actual protection from samsara. When we understand this with great depth and breadth, the failings of samsara, the excellent qualities of liberation with great depth and great breadth, that's what actually fuels the choices, making judgments about our behavior, determining to embrace all that is in accord with attaining liberation and to shun all that is in accord with deepening our experience in samsara. To the extent we do that, to that same extent, we have a proportional faith. The strength of our faith in the genuine Dharma is proportional to our understanding of the depth and breadth of samsara and liberation. Now, seeing that, we recognize how it is that the guru that makes it possible for us to engage in this genuine Dharma is kinder still than the Buddhas. This is a felt sense of the great kindness of the guru, even more than the kindness of the Buddha. Without that felt sense, saying, oh, the guru is kinder even than the Buddha is just lip service. But having that feeling, that sensation, that experience, then there are no needs for words. Suddenly that experience arises. It arises naturally and spontaneously. The words arise from the experience. And that's the mindset that is able to truly comprehend in its full measure the great meaning and purpose of the priceless human existence with its freedoms and resources.
Hola. Tiene de linga to danger tandangaranso danjurugi milire. Mili sammare, mili sambo amare, danjurugi milire. Tiene da mili rumpuchere. Mili rumpuchere ngazo ishin nurubu petachimbo tigira. Ngazo lidin de tachimbo tachijung ganere lana. Pena ishin nurubu di sambulingi jigdin di tsangma hising nurubugi kangna 디인데 선불링기 뉴기 직된지 상황 이신 누르기 깡네 애니 간들어 니에서는 빼 메세 까와 상보러 이는 딜레경 달중기 미리 토바디 딜레경 된 책이래요 성래 김생 거래라나 이신 누르 디 망보디기 털바टे 두고 말해 탐제 김보 고방때 두고 말해 더동 벌지 책이래 딜라 셈차 되네 그냥 최제도 그래 되네 미제도 미제 동동데 되네 되는 미제차 되네 그냥 시도도 것은 누르지에 개라고 말해 되네 세딜라 최제롱 중에 말해 딜라 창밖에 뒤에 나gel게 되게 되네 나 타도게 라소바 되네 녀모 왕도 그렇지만 누르부디 거치기를 그러나 냐와나 되게 디디들 남수 단줄 밀리디 따침버려였습니다. 그러게 동을 타달래 교 탈바다 탐색 캠페더니 고방 담발라 깨도 그래. 어떻게 인도 거서 선불링기 직된 상마 누르비 강화 누르부 이신 누르부 기주부 강화 네바 레경 남수 밀리디 따침버려였습니다.
When we speak of a human existence with freedoms and assets, we're not just talking about a human existence. Just having a human body is not what's referenced here. This is a human body, a human existence with all the freedoms and all the assets. This is what is priceless. This priceless human existence is often compared to what are called wish-fulfilling jewels. A jewel which in our culture is similar to an Aladdin's lamp, that you can ask for whatever wish you want and it will be accomplished. But how do you determine whether something is valuable or not? How do you determine the worth of something or not? The example that's used to give a sense of the value of the priceless human existence, the existence with freedoms and assets, is if you filled all of the world with these wish-fulfilling jewels, chock full of wish-fulfilling jewels that can accomplish whatever you desire. If we were to encounter that many wish-fulfilling jewels, we would consider ourselves extremely fortunate. This is great good fortune. Greater still is attaining the human body, the human existence with all the freedoms and assets that allow us to bring the Dharma into practice. The world full of wish-fulfilling jewels will not serve as a cause for eradicating samsara and attaining liberation. In fact, it can serve the cause for a fixated attachment to samsara. All of a sudden, we have this world full of jewels, wish-fulfilling jewels. We're very busy making sure that we make use of it, we make the most of it. Then we get all frustrated because we won't be able to take all those wish-fulfilling jewels on with us after our death into a next life. In this life, we develop attachment to the jewels. We have aversion to anything that wants to take away the jewels. We have pride because we own the jewels. We have jealousy of anybody else also has jewels and so forth. What happens? This world full of wish-fulfilling jewels leads us to the hell realms by the karmic actions driven by this attachment, pride, jealousy, aversion, and so forth. By contrast, this human existence, full of freedoms, full of assets, is what protects us from samsara in its entirety. It's the cause for attaining the states of liberation and omniscience. A world full of wish-fulfilling jewels, wonderful indeed. A human existence with its freedoms and assets, priceless.
Hola. Tiene tata ngaranso 데이터베드니 다와게 저버주 통에 밀류 무체 맞아 토베래. 야고 상보래. 이네디 som로기 하고도 이네 랑랭랑서 가르치 거래. 데메 세들 저에 따도 행. What we use this priceless human body. 데메 세들 저에 따도 행. Tenchin Turbo Dula Lelokir. Picture Lopatang Goranga.
말해.
어디 세디 자와스나다 세디 자와 망보여로 쏘디 가르스는 직진 체계로 담비치던 걸어디 직진 체계로 어디 직진 체계 두개라 비디 차고 아래 간도 이인데드니 응랑스 달주기 밀리 타침보 타르바던 탐제킨 버도 두경기 데니 리덴 딜랑 간서 거지고 아래랑 세디 자와 직진 체계기 ini lega nala bizi chagore eso yan kese dur disna digba dubela digbe jawa dube nala dine yang dugore eso bizi chade gore
So that's how we develop an understanding of the priceless human existence, rich in the 8 freedoms and 10 assets. This is how we recognize the marvelous good fortune of having attained this priceless human existence. Now we have that understanding to mind. How do we implement it? How do we put it to use, this priceless human existence? That's what's stated in the verse. Forever diverted by the meaningless doings of this life, laziness keeps me from accomplishing the supreme aim of liberation. This is in contradiction to our own understanding. We're saying, what this verse is saying is that even when we understand the pricelessness of this human existence, we put it to use in an incorrect way. We put it to a perverse use. Why is that? What does it mean when in the second line, the verse says, meaningless doings of this life? This refers to the 8 worldly pursuits, which are in a contradiction to the practice of Dharma. So the doings of this life refers to being caught up with the 8 worldly pursuits, getting so busy, being so involved in the 8 worldly pursuits that we squander our human existence with its freedoms and assets. In brief, what ends up happening is we get caught up, carried away, distracted by the doings of this life that contradict the Dharma. Instead of being engaged with the Dharma, we are busy with the worldly pursuits.
Hola. Teni de meba de la bizicha de meba de chigdingi jawam chedi jawam chigdin chigi yangna dile dordishena tigbi jawa dubela bizicha de meba chibu mare nimik chimbore teni de meba nimik chimbodela mad bizicha teni ngansu mili ta chimbodi digi 아니 콜보 욕보서 얘네 된 침보 타르바단 탐색해 봐 땡기 대와 랑신 니가라 펜바 데 두베라 니바 요레 간서 리덴데라 디 두베라 니바 요네 애들이 간서 디 마두베제 dub goye den chimbore dub tuwe ge niba ngantu lidin la yore di madu beje di dubya la lele on the shore lelo di gi lo be lele on the shore chishul gi lele on the shore ta jawang yin lelo dangbo diran do sa
Nare.
dangbo di jawang yin lelo chigra 자원행시 레로케르 딜 항마디 되니 길로비 레로케르 치슈르기 레로케르 뚝뚝거 말해
When this verse refers to meaningless doings of this life, it's, as I said, referring to the 8 worldly pursuits, spending our life in activities that chase after pleasure and avoid pain and so forth through the 8 worldly pursuits. A simple way of putting that, the way this is described, is by engaging in the incorrect actions, misguided actions that seek the worldly pursuits. So not only is this a meaningless situation, it's in a situation of great deficiency, and it's an exceedingly flawed situation. We become busy with these misguided actions, and we take this priceless human existence, so incredibly valuable, and we turn it into a slave of the worldly pursuits, a slave for misguided actions. This priceless human existence, this body that is the basis for attaining the states of liberation and omniscience, of complete happiness that never ends, of the ability to benefit oneself and others, we enslave to accomplish the 8 worldly pursuits. This body that has the ability to accomplish so much, we allow to fall prey to the laziness of prioritizing the misguided activities of this life. This laziness of misguided priorities leads the way, setting us up for the laziness of procrastination and the laziness of self-doubt. Now busy with the misguided priorities, full of procrastination and self-doubt, we do not accomplish the ultimate aim.
Voilà. Tiene da lelo ker sedi dini kilu belelo chishul gilelo ini jawangi singi lelo sumere da jawangi singi lelo di kangla dro tikbi jawa dubela kawa dro tini chishul gilelo di garlana tini ngazo danjong milu yimba ngazo milu di tini chu dube gilu di yabu yimba di shego are 어디에 다더니 최 두고바양 삼로 요래 두베기 삼로야 요래 이내 양더니 갈래 둡초 그래 삼 치술기래로 저거 알아 다 갈래 둡고 그래 삼도 거서더니 세딜라다 미세링 보래 갈래 둡초 그래 단단가 로충중래 디가 세딜라 때문에 치술기래로 다 세딜라 갈래 둡초 그래 삼야 요 말에 dine chiwa mirabare dine namji chamere dine sangni nangni chedugi samaya bardala tering chiwa yongsigre dine da dine sangni nangni gi dine chishul da chaya yamare tering ran tubere miraba samlo dana di samlo khurgre hina yang yangyur chishul gi lelo jilegida se dila che dulong meba je shisona kebar yamare yangyur kewa jema di do danjo mi to gre di kapsu du chogre samnyang kewa jema la de chishul gi lelo legida 연결 지시를 내려 켜도고도 데려거든요 지시를 내려 온도 내려 켜네 뚝뚝해요 말에
So the line that refers to forever being diverted, distracted by the meaningless doing this of this life refers to the laziness consisting of having misguided priorities, prioritizing the 8 worldly pursuits and the things of this life over the practice of Dharma. Once we have that in place, then comes the voice of the laziness consisting of procrastination. This is the state where we understand we have this priceless human existence with freedoms and resources. We really want to practice the Dharma. That's not the problem. But procrastination comes in and says, what's the hurry? Take it easy. We have a long life. We have plenty of time yet. We're still rather young. We still have plenty of time ahead. This is the voice of procrastination, which is a kind of laziness. So what happens here is that even when we overcome that, we reflect and contemplate on our own mortality, the impermanence of this life, the uncertainty of the time of our death, that we might even die this evening. We become active, wishing to make the most of this priceless human existence today, put ourselves into practice now. But procrastination doesn't quite give up so easily. It says, what's the hurry? Even if we don't have time in this life, even if our time is short, in the next life, we'll have a priceless human existence again. We'll be able to put the Dharma into practice then. Don't be so worried. So now again, the laziness of procrastination carries us away, and we do not accomplish our supreme aim of liberation. We'll return empty-handed from this land filled with jewels.
Hola. The dito dine demi city jawe tado ing dunjin tharba dubla lele khersona. Dine garchagre mise tongse khen. Nanji mise dunchibodi tongba seto gre eso.
The verse clearly lays this out when it's saying, well, what happens? What's the situation when we're diverted by the meaningless doings of this life, and laziness keeps us from accomplishing the supreme aim of liberation? What the result is that we squander this human existence with its freedoms and assets.
Hola. Mise tongba sena gare yore. The whole sungdo norbi ling ne laudong logirves. Telling us mise tongba this. Mite tongba sene deni shidogre shine meshiwa nasi 균체 되고말에 추감바 nasi 균체 되고말에 깨와지마 편전을 도고 그래. 근데 깨와지마 편전이 화장기 이니 술다른 보래. 깨와 치마디 타해봐라. 세디 로카세라. 어떤 애들이 깨와 치마 편체를 도디 가서 라고 동바 전에 도고 그래서. 가만에 라고 동바는 도래. 노르위 링네. Ngarasa danda danjurung milu thubadi nurbi ling lale bada baro tambe chue dugi gogap sangbo yore kewa chima penchela pembadi tambe chue mada yomaro kewa chima penchela pembe ising nurbu nangsin tambe chue dugi dini gogap sangbo top nurbi ling lale bada baro ine dini nurbu dobuchi makiro aje lakbo tongbo dona dini gararedi kukbaro stupid 어디인데 계속 세월에 숨어라. 근데 달와 톱기로네. 다기 개군 맞이나. 근데 달와 사신 분들 톱네. 근데 개와 정말 편절라 편비 개와 마두버지 담배치 마두 나서는다. 딜레 루이바 세메데. 나랑라 고거 첨벌에 손으로데. 나랑라 고거 다나 빼 말해. 딜레 루이바 세메데 딜레 멍방 세메도 소래 딜레 멍바 치와 요 말에 소래 나랑 고거당데 딜레 멍바 여래 센다 요 말에 소래 딘디 랑이랑라 고거 쳔버래 이 랑이랑라 고거당데 딜레 고바 요 말에 소래라 고송해
So what is the situation we're in? What is this verse saying that our situation is? It's saying that when we are in this circumstance, when we are wasting this life, forever diverted by the meaningless doings of this life, laziness keeping us from accomplishing the supreme aim of liberation, we squander this human existence with its freedoms and resources. What is that like? That's like leaving this land filled with jewels empty-handed. What does that mean? That means that after a life filled with busyness, with the misguided priorities of the 8 worldly pursuits, we naturally come to the time of death. At the time of death, it's not like our mind just stops It doesn't evaporate like water on a dry day. It doesn't just go out like the flame of a candle or whatever. There is a next life to follow after death. And not only that, but the next life, the extent of our future lives is infinite. The amount of time left in this life is just perhaps a few years. Relative to the infinite number of future lives, it is very small. And yet we take the situation of this life, which is characterized as a land filled with jewels. A land filled with these wish-fulfilling jewels is the example of what it is like to inhabit a priceless human existence with its freedoms and resources. But we don't take anything from this life filled with jewels. We return empty-handed. This is something that can only be described in one word: stupid. To leave this land filled with jewels empty-handed is stupidity indeed. As the Bodhisattva Shantideva says, he says that when we are in a situation where we take this precious opportunity and use it only for pointless activities, this is the greatest way to deceive ourselves. There is no greater self-deception than to take something as valuable as this and to make nothing of it. This is truly foolish. This is a foolishness of deceiving ourselves with something of great value, of great import, and just letting it go to waste.
Hola, Norway Lingni, Latung Logube, Lavatomba, Sen Noru Meba Lavatomba, Chitang Lavatomba, garbage Mambo Ketugar. Norway Lingni, Noru Maka, garbage Mambo Ketugar, Divokin to Gora. Tanju Mili top, Dambiche to be a Gogabula, Dambiche Maru, Divadun to Gora. In the Lavatomba to Gomare. Noru Maka, Lavatomba to Gora, garbage can to Gora. Diva garbage can to Gora.
And then the verse also says, we'll leave empty-handed from this land filled with jewels. Actually, we're not entirely empty-handed. We're only empty-handed when it comes to the wish-fulfilling jewels. But our hands will leave full of garbage instead, full of lots of rubbish. We will be carrying the burden of wrongdoing and misdeeds, but leave empty-handed with respect to the wish-fulfilling jewels.
Hola. Did was on the telling us Tanjur the Dunchimbore. And it said the Mr. Tomba says on Kawachima younger did over near Kagore. Then said Dilayang. Tambichi di Gyobu Maduna, Jiglaware. The number Sunga di Samradana, Mazuli Dindela, Tachimbure. Sedila Dunda Nimbo Malena, Kawajima, Younger Diro Nyakaware. The Nimbo di Tambichi, Nimbo di Gyobu Malena, any Nanzi di Namching Yemere. Chiglavare. This somewhat on the Gosu, then Tambichi said Dilarang, any Tadarang to Guerrero. Chishul Meba. Did a Semgi Ribagi Kugore in a Lalena Legumidua. Tigarilla, Gula Kegua Marada, some Luna Yore, Gula Kegua. Gula Gray is Lamadan, Sidri Javi, Divi Javala, Young Duedang, any Dambichi Duella Lelogi on the Duedi, Manzo Gumshi Layora. Think also Lalenta to cover some look on a dogma, Gumshi on a dogro. Then Dilla Garla was a Narangi Kin Tatang Lagora. Then the Kin the governor Jungrilana. Masheba Marwa, Gula Magiva Kenra,
Nare.
Di Gula Keva Jibudu, Di Magina, or Digimidu, some of the name. Tanjaniga, Gula Gala, the near Simple Kido. He came the Tona. Di Tanjaniga Gula Gala, Tumbake. Tanjaniga the Goat on the Malaba, Gula Keva Jibudu, some Tanjake. Timena Kubachagido. 이신으로 롱발레는 이신으로 막혀 저 가르비스 캔드잖아. 그거라. 네. 뒤견데 통도 가서 계속 시발에 손하지. 랑이랑라 고거 침보. 랑이랑라 고거 당에 고거 침보라. 어디에더니 뭐 들리잖아. 지금 미도 섬. 다 단줄 길게 와지 저거도 섬에 되니게. 이 길게 와지기 섬에 담작게 다 드니르키 담제케 원하시더니 랑렌라키 투벨라 그래고레라나 소놈게 소사고레 두바장고레 라메질랍주고레 어디다더니 라마케노 스디레기라다 라마 드니 데베킨 켐베 예시기킨 투제암 테 뉴르드식 드니 니베 코네 밀리 덴덴 두발라 질람나로나 밀리 된den도 봐서는 겨우 고성 배송 안 하지. 도미 저와 미지 인진 추기 내렸던 특별 도고 방아. 거네 밀리 된den도 봐 두야라 되니 지람 나로나. 그러나 기세 쟁가 안 하지.
This great meaning and purpose of the priceless human existence with its freedoms and assets is something that we need to contemplate in its full, in all of the points that explain why it is so important to make use of it in this very life. When we are engaged, as it says in this verse, in being distracted by the meaningless doings of this life, and laziness is carrying us away, keeping us from accomplishing the supreme aim of liberation, we squander the freedoms and resources of this priceless human existence. To avoid that, we need to really develop a sense of regret, of not wanting to waste this life. And how do we do that? First, we contemplate the great value of the human existence with freedoms and resources, because it's what allows us the foundation for bringing the Dharma into our experience. Second, we contemplate that if we do not practice the Dharma in this life, it will be very difficult to encounter the priceless human existence in the next life. It is very rare and very difficult to encounter. Third, we consider not only do we need to practice in this life, but we need to do so quickly, swiftly, with all we have, all the time we have. Why? Because this priceless human existence of great value and rare to find is extremely fragile. With these 3 points, the great value, rarity, and fragility of the priceless human existence that is the basis for accomplishing the genuine Dharma, we have the mindset that recognizes that it is necessary to put this priceless situation into practice, to harness these priceless jewels. This is what actually eradicates the laziness consisting of procrastination. We understand it intellectually. It makes logical sense to us. We're totally on board. Our head's right there. And yet we're still not putting it into practice. It's still not integrated into our daily life. Why? Because we have not actually suffused our mind stream. We haven't activated that understanding in our mind stream in a more deep going way than a mere intellectual understanding. Why is that? because our habit, as described in this verse, of being forever distracted by the meaningless doings of this life, and being carried away by the laziness that prevents us from attaining the supreme liberation, squandering the freedoms and assets of this priceless human existence, is very strong. That habit is what we follow in our everyday life. We do not follow our intellectual understanding. We are led along by our habit of getting distracted by meaningless doings of this life and so forth. That itself is the failing. Not understanding this is the reason why we are not able to activate in our mind stream the full comprehension in an experiential way of the value, rarity, and fragility of this priceless human existence. Seeing the situation as a failing, that we haven't activated this understanding experientially right in our mind stream, not solely as an intellectual understanding, is something that is important to see. It is what drives us with urgency to give rise to that active presence in our mind stream of an understanding of the value, rarity, and fragility of the priceless human existence that is not mere words. It is not a mere intellectual understanding. It is an experiential understanding suffusing our mind stream. The urgent seeking for that is what actually uses the wish-fulfilling jewels as they are. It's that urgency that comes when we see those wish-fulfilling jewels being led to the garbage. We jump to prevent that, seeing that this is a great failing, seeing that we are only deceiving ourselves, that this is no way to put to use this priceless human existence with its freedoms and assets. Now we are desperate, urgently seeking, how do I suffuse my mind stream with this understanding? So it becomes the operating system for my life. It drives my actual practice, implementing the various activities of this life towards that end. And we see that the way to do that is to gather the accumulations, purify the obscurations, and supplicate to the Guru for blessing. Seeing that, what comes naturally? Lama Khenpo, Master know me, spontaneously arises out of that experience. We say, please bless me. Know me with your non-dual wisdom. Know the situation I'm in. Please behold me with your great affection, your great compassion, and out of your limitless power, grant me the blessing to be just as Gyalwa Gomsampa says, and not engaging in meaningless activities, day and night practicing the Dharma, and abandoning all misguided actions, being just like Yeshe who cannot even sleep at night because the thought of losing this priceless human existence keeps him awake, and he spends day and night practicing Dharma.
Oh, that's any ni mevajane, ni manalvajane, Giva Dumatune, ni Givala, ni Nene, ni Givala Gray. The Gisichanga Togo Chagre. Gisichanga, the Chiwaching Chana, ni manalvajane, Giva Dugara. Casiti Matumna, ni Nelvadi Givala Gure, ni Givala Gray.
To draw nearer to Geshe Chengawa in his practice of virtue, even at night, doesn't mean we have to stay up all night. It means that we employ the Dharma such that at night when we sleep, even our sleep becomes a practice of virtue. We're able to turn even sleep to a virtuous practice. This is what it means to draw nearer to Geshe Chengawa, who was able to employ all of his time, day and night, to the practice of Dharma.
Dinzandri Nazo Gishi Jingawa, Jiba Chamatumne, Gishi Jingawa do Chana, Kandiabu, Sambedni, Dumbajikine, Dian Sunam Chimbora, Gishi Jingawa do Mongola Chayaki Tender. Chijana Sedra Ran Chatugre. Kasi Chamatumnayang, Gishi Jingawagi Namtardilla, Musarchimbo, Tame Debake, or Dido Nadang, any Chitang Sumje Samja, Habar to Chudo Chunze, Tisoyang. Gishi Jingawado, Tanjur Trolamata, Nam Ninsin Kurula, Gijur Jetungi Jona, Kandiago, some Rangla, Tanjurki, Sien Simjin, Tamjeta, the Chidangi Chudo Chunze, Toma de Chana, the Champagne Sambake. The Garan Sonam Chimbora, some of the Garan Sonam Chimbora. The Langla Canada in the Yero. Some of them, there are some of them again, and the young Sonam Chimbora. The Nyamdu didn't Lama saw them, the young Sonamra. The Chidu didn't kill Corado, Charles, Sonam Garesava. The Chidu didn't Moa the Malamji, near Sonam Savadi, in Nadan, Simjin Tamje, Lawar the Church and the Summer Gula. Then Gishi Chingawa Nashi, Gawako Sambesuan Nashi, Gishi Chingawa Dover, then Tanjunia Gulake. Ninjin Chugi Lelaton, Demi Jawamiji, the great Wopang, or did all young show, Son of Moa Malamje. Teach the Moache, Malam Top. The ground Sonam Chimbora.
Let's say we can't exactly rise to the level of Geshe Chingawa in this life. We know that that's beyond our capacity. That's okay. Simply wishing that that were the case, longing that we be able to emulate Geshe Chingawa is a way of setting up an auspicious connection, a synchronicity, such that even if we're not able to accomplish that in this life, we are setting up the causes and conditions for that to occur in future lives. How does that work? We developed this vivid faith in Geshe Chingawa's accomplishment, his ability to turn everything into virtuous practice, day and night, awake or asleep. Everything becomes a practice of virtue, just as the Victor Gutsompa explains, not engaging in meaningless activity, but engaging in virtue day and night. Abandoning misguided companions. How do we do that? That vivid faith leads us to this mindset, oh, wouldn't that be wonderful if I could only be like Geshe Chingawa and do just like that, not to miss a single moment of this priceless existence, make all of it worthwhile. Day and night, whatever I am doing, awake or asleep, turn everything into virtue. How wonderful if not only I, but all sentient beings would be able to do so. In this way, we have the mindset that benefits for the benefit of ourselves and other beings. This mindset that longs for the benefit of ourselves and other beings is in and of itself virtuous. Of course, being able to implement it in our everyday life is virtuous. Being as close as we can come to Geshe Chingawa is a wonderful thing. But even this mindset that longs to be like that wishes that we and all beings may be able to do so, is itself a great source of merit. Out of that mindset, we are inspired to do circumambulations, prostrations, and so forth, any number of virtuous practice to gather even more merit. In this way, we have this longing in our mind stream that we and all beings may be just like Geshe Chingawa, just like the Victor Gutsampa, and not squander our opportunities in meaningless activities, and instead engage in virtue day and night, abandoning all misguided companions. When we do this, this itself is a mindset that is one of great merit. It is also the mindset that we can use to make aspiration prayers to this effect and to dedicate the merit of all virtuous activities we engage in towards that end. This is itself a source of great merit.
Hola, that the Any answer this is the source of the late chasma. Tanga Tring young duadida link up to Maso. Duasum the Lenga. That Duas another sunny lane gap to get a watching. Drink the shot. The Tratusum Jevi gave it our day, Rangsism Jetumja, the 2 months, the Rangsism Jetamje, Tanjur Duncho, Niakawa, Jiglawa, and Bangishi Kene, Gawa Kosung Sungananshi, any to me Jawa Miji, Nitin Chugi Lelaton, the great Wopang, Kishichinga, Nam Ninsin Kurula, Kijur Dumne, Tini gave it our Gulake, Minimum Gond the Pill, Tarchin, the Sangi Kopon, which is more than Molam Jitamja now, issue.
Our time is up. Actually, we've gone past time, and I've managed to answer 3 of the questions. And tomorrow, I hope to answer more. But we'll leave it there for today. Now, please gather together all of the roots of virtue that have come from this listening and contemplating the genuine Dharma, and dedicate them to ourselves and all beings in a similar situation, that we and all beings may suffuse our mind stream with the experiential understanding of the great meaning and purpose of this priceless human existence, its rarity and difficulty to encounter, its fragility, and just like the Victor Gonsampa, engage in our activities without squandering our time in meaningless activities, day and night, turning everything into virtue and abandoning any misguided companions, such that we become like Geshe Chengawa, able to practice virtue day and night, such that those roots of virtue arise, exponentially increase all the way up to the level of Buddhahood. And please make the aspiration and dedication prayers that this may happen.
Sunam de Tamje Sevanye Tone Mibe Drama Ega Naje Bala Tobai Sibe Tole Roa Dora Jo Semcho Rinpo Che Marge Pranam Gigyo Eba Nyamba Mebara Yang Kone Gondo Pewara Jumbo Kuye Tashi Yenda Drujo Sungye Tashi Tuge Tashi Shu Yewe Kuzon Tuge Tashi Shu 나서 심장난 거. Have a nice day.
Sinjanago Jumakumpala.
안도 등장난 거. kinzo.
So
Thank
for
you
us,
all.
it's all good night. For all of you, have a nice day.
Thank you all so much for attending. To all the translators and recorders, we can stop recording now.